Tom Brokaw, in his best-selling book, The Greatest Generation, told our story. Your story is yet to be told. The greatness of our generation was told in acts of courage, of industry, and of passion. Courage to fight 2 world wars in the name of freedom, and the courage to admit the mistakes we made in Vietnam. Industry in, among other things, putting a person on the moon and beginning, for you, the digital revolution. And passion in furthering the cause of human rights in this nation, and hopefully with the American Civil Rights Movement, that we fought the last battle in the American Revolution. When the story is told of your generation, it'll be told not in our gross national product, but in our gross national consciousness. You can look to the things that we did as gods, but they in many ways are like old wine, bottled and sometimes sold by politicians to get you to turn back to an America that no longer exists today. But you can, though, look back for examples. We had heroes, not all perfect. Among our heroes that taught us many things, one, to protect the environment. Rachel Carson started that revolution with her book, Silent Springs. You can help finish that revolution. To lift us from despair of economic deprivation, Franklin Delano Roosevelt taught us that we only had fear to be concerned with. To open the doors for women in this nation, we have many heroes, Gloria Steinem and others. And to show us our responsibility as citizens, we learned from John F. Kennedy to ask not what we can gain, but what we can give. And from Ralph Nader, we learned how to be good public citizens. President Jimmy Carter taught us great things in working for humanity, in his great work for Habitat for Humanity. And to make this world a better place to live, a more peaceful world, we had, yes, Richard Nixon, who, at a time when it was very unpopular, reached the hand of friendship across the Iron Curtain to China, the most populous nation on earth. An act of great courage. But probably our biggest hero of our generation was the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, because he taught us and led us to be soldiers in a battle, to cause our nation to live up to the promises of equality written in our Constitution in 1776. That battle for justice that Dr. King led is where you can pick up and move on. Dr. King, at a time when our nation had strayed so far from the principles written in our Constitution, when we treated millions of our citizens as second class, Dr. King gave us hope. He had faith in us. He had faith in those then and those to come. And when he went around America talking to us in the 1950s and 60s, he reminded us of another nation at another time that had also lost its way. And he told an old story to remind us of what could happen. to this great nation. The year was 900 BC. The Jews, the children of Israel, had wandered in the desert for years after being slaves in Egypt. Horrible things happened to them along the way. And finally, they settled in a place near the present site of Jerusalem, and they built a big city. They built high walls around this city and large gates to protect it. And those people inside who did well got nice building lots, and they built beautiful homes overlooking the valleys, fertile valleys. And people brought their goods in from the marketplace far and wide to sell there in that town. And there was a farmer who came in from a nearby area to bring his produce in for sale. And as he drove his wagon up in front of those big gates early in the morning, he saw things that bothered him. He saw able-bodied men and women begging for food. And upon inquiry, he found that those people who had positions of power sometimes discriminated in jobs against those who were from different groups. And he also learned that the charity and giving nature had given way to greed among many. And then as he got in the marketplace, placed his products in the stall to sell, he heard grumblings in the streets, grumblings of inequality and unfair treatment. If you didn't know the right person, you might not get a fair deal in the court system. And this bothered this farmer. He was a man of some means and some reputation, and he wanted these people to succeed. And he asked for an audience among the leaders, and they granted it, and he stood there and he said, "You know, you people have a good thing here. You got a good school system, you got a good law enforcement system, you got a good court system. But unless you're fair to all the people, unless people have an equal opportunity, then you're not going to be able to keep these good things and pass them down to generations to come." And he spoke words to those people gathered there, 900 BC, that Dr. King spoke to us when he was among us. He said, "Don't be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream." You have the keys to the gates of justice. Your education and the opportunities that you have will give you the opportunity to be fair and just to the least among us. It's okay that we earn money and get jobs and build up our retirement plans and have homes and save money for our families and do all the things that comes to those that work hard. But we cannot forget the least among us. Because like in the words of the prophet Amos, this great nation, which is very young, will not necessarily be passed on to your children and your grandchildren. Dr. King had so much faith in us and so much faith in you, even though he would not live to know you. And he expressed that faith on many occasions. In the dark days of 1963, when a group of Klansmen had placed a bomb in the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Dr. King expressed his faith. He went to Washington, D.C., stood on the mall with 250,000 people at his feet and millions watching on television as he expressed that faith in you. He said that I have a dream that one day in the red clay hills of Georgia, that the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will sit down around the table of brotherhood. A lot's happened since Dr. King left us. We've taken 3 steps forward and 2 back. The issues have changed. But I think if he was here today giving this graduation talk to you, that he would still have faith in us. And if he was making that speech today, he might say that I have a dream that one day in the red clay hills of Georgia, and today he might add, in the barrios, in the ghettos, on the reservations, and in the seats of economic and political and judicial power in this nation, that the sons and daughters of former slaves and the sons and daughters of former slave owners, and today he might add, the poor, the powerless, the homeless, and those who hold the keys to the economic and political and judicial power of this nation will sit down around the table of personhood and truly learn to love one another. I predict that the story of your generation will be told like that of mine, and one of you might even write the book. And I know that because of the values that you've learned at DePauw University, then more than likely, the title of your book will also be The Greatest Generation. Thank you.